Welcome to Section 6, Lesson 1, Video 4. Here we're going to be graphing equations in general form. So now to graph a linear equation in general form, we're going to be finding the x and y intercepts. When we graphed equations in slope point form and slope intercept form, we always use our slope to help us plot some points. But as noted previously, we can't easily identify the slope when an equation is general form. So instead, we're going to determine the x and y intercepts. So let's look at this graph for a moment. The x-intercept is found where the line crosses the x-axis, like right here. And the y-intercept would be found on the y-axis right here. Now if I were to write the x-intercept as a point, it would be 2, 0. Any x-intercept would have that form, some number, 0. Because the y value is always going to be 0 on the x-axis. Now the y-intercept would be 0, -6. And again, it will always have the form of 0, a number, because the x value is always going to be 0 on the y-axis. So that's important to note, because that's going to help us find the x and y intercepts. So to find the x-intercept from the equation ax plus by plus c equals 0, we're going to let y be 0 and then solve for x. Now if we want to find the y-intercept, we are going to let x be 0 and then solve for y. So let's practice that in example 1. We have to determine the x and y intercepts of 4x minus 6y plus 24 equals 0. So let's start with the x-intercept. We have to let y equal 0. So in your equation, replace y with 0. Now the middle term would just cancel out since it's 0, leaving us with 4x plus 24 equals 0. Now to solve for x, I'm going to bring the plus 24 over to the right-hand side. Then I need to divide both sides by 4. Now when I simplify that, I get x equals -6. So I'll write that as a point, -6, 0. That is the x-intercept. Now for the y-intercept. To find that, I'm going to let x be 0. So in the equation, replace x with 0, so we have this. So now that first term would just be 0, leaving us with -6y plus 24 equals 0. So similarly to when we found the x-intercept, I'm going to bring the 24 over to the other side. And now I'm going to divide both sides by -6. And when I work that out, I get a y-intercept of 4. So now I'll write that as 0, 4. So now that I know how to find the x and y intercepts, let's use that to help us graph each equation. So if we start with our x-intercept again, I'll let y be 0. So in the equation, I replace y with 0, and then I'll simplify that to 3x minus 15 equals 0. And bringing that minus 15 over to the right, I get 3x equals positive 15. Now divide by 3, and you'll see that your x-intercept is 5. Now let's do the y-intercept. If we let x be 0, we would have this. The first term cancels, leaving us with 5y minus 15 equals 0. Bringing over the minus 15, we have 5y equals 15. Then we got to divide by 5 and simplify that. When I do, I get y equals 3. So now to graph, just plot both of those points on your x and y axes. So 5, 0 is on the x-axis and 0, 3 is on the y-axis. So now you can just join up those 2 points with a line and you have your graph. So let's do one more example. So to find the x-intercept, y is going to be 0. So that middle term is 0, which means it cancels out, giving us 7x plus 21 equals 0. Bringing the 21 over to the right-hand side, we get 7x equals negative 21. Now to solve for x, I got to divide both sides by 7, giving me that the x-intercept is negative 3. And there's the point. Now the y-intercept. Go ahead and let x be 0. Now the first term is gone, leaving us with minus y plus 21 equals 0. Bringing the 21 over, we get negative y equals negative 21. And in front of that y is really a negative 1. So that's what you need to divide both sides by. And that will give you a value of 21. So now plot negative 3, 0 on the x-axis and 0, 21 on the y-axis. Now note that the scale on the y-axis is 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and then 21 would be there. So I'll join those up to get my graph. So that's the end of this section as well as this unit. You can now move on to the next activity in this lesson.